Manchester United 1, West Ham United 1. United are dropping more points at Old Trafford. I think fatigue is setting in for me to try and find some silver linings in a very dark cloud. Finn joining us and Tom. Finn, just sum up your feeling of the overall game.
Yeah, I feel very deflated after that one. I think it was just a string of unnecessary negative decisions that were made in the second half, both by players and I think by Ruben Amorim, who has to take some of the brunt of the blame for this one. Just a really unnecessary loss to let go of. I think we approached the second half the complete opposite of how I'd like us to and how Manchester United should. Obviously, we created a fair few chances, not many clear-cut, and just let the game get away from us. And then bringing on someone like Ugarte, who for me represents a backward step in terms of giving away control in the game and just looking to defend a lead, even though I don't think he's exceptional defensively. I just think it was all wrong in the second half. Thrown away more points that we didn't need to. And suddenly you look at the league table and it's nowhere near as favourable as it could have been beforehand. So
yeah, it seems like we're getting these opportunities to move up the table and we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. Tom, how are you feeling following the game?
Not good. There's not much to cling to at the minute. Look at the last 4 games. What was it? Forest away, fast 5. Forest, Spurs, constantly getting in positions and dropping points. Everton, even. But where's the good performances? It's little spells in games. But I'm looking at, if you focus on the last 3 especially, 2 of them are at home. I don't know what's going on. I really can't defend that, and it's getting tougher. And you think of some of the excuses. I know the league's been a bit more inconsistent this season. It's not as if anyone's showing the levels game after game, but look at some other teams, there were maybe smaller squads who are playing in Europe, what's our excuse? This is massive for us, because we finished, was it 16th last year?
Yeah,
we finished 16th in the league last year. No European football. It's not. This season means more than it does to most. You've got a lot of making up to do. These players and the manager, and you see, I've been very supportive, but then you see these home games passing you by, and I'm watching it, and I can't quite understand what's going on. We talk about the game management in that second half. What's going on with the substitutions? I can't wrap my head around it.
We'll get into the second half soon, but just how they started the game for me just was beyond belief, because you made the point about European football. That was supposed to be looked at as a bonus because the players would have rest time, but yet again we're starting games and we're really sluggish, and early on we gave West Ham 20 minutes to play football. Finn?
Yeah, absolutely. We invited them into the game, we invited them to have control. There was no upside to approaching the first half in that way, and we are often too slow starting these games, and you do have to ask the question, where is this advantage that we said we had at the start of the season from not having European games? We should look much fresher, we should look much sharper going into these games. You have to ask, what is happening on the training pitch, in the training ground, that is leading to us looking just lethargic at the start and being bested in duels, first and second balls. West Ham were winning a lot of them when it got particularly cagey. It just felt like nothing was falling our way, and obviously we did build into that half, and we grew into it and started to create chances, but even the chances we were creating weren't particularly high quality. They weren't really clear cut, and I just think against a team like West Ham, who weren't exceptional, they're not a fantastic team, and we were saying before the game that it didn't feel like they had much threat, much quality that really stands out. I don't know how we make it look so difficult.
Free header for Bowen at the near post there for the goal, when 83 minutes on the clock and you're defending a lead.
We'll just go back to the first half, Tom, and obviously Heaven starting ahead of Euro was a bit of a talking point. He got booked earlier on, but do you think that was anything to sort of reason for dictating the play? It shouldn't really have an impact.
It shouldn't matter. No, I don't really know what to say, Scott, to be honest.
Well, the first half was so nondescript, we can just skip right past it.
If you look at the game as a whole, I actually forget chances aside, because I don't think the game was littered with clear-cut chances. But actually getting to that point where you're a pass away from a chance, where you've got into a position in the box, they overall, if you look at us, probably had more than us. How many hairy moments did we have towards the end of the game? Overall, they got in better positions in the box. Look at our goal. It was a shanked, deflected cross from Casemiro, probably a shot cross that's fallen to Dalot in the box. We've not made a chance. We didn't make a chance against Everton in 90 minutes, and we've not made a chance against West Ham in 90 minutes. That's a massive problem.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. You give a bit of grace for a while, because we started the season okay with a few performances, but you expect it needs to be leading somewhere. It's got to be going in that direction. It can't. It's going in the opposite way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody knew we needed a second goal, and it felt like it was definitely going to happen. It was going to be a certainty. If we didn't get a second, they were most likely going to get an equaliser.
Try and get it with Bravery. There's players on the bench. Like, when you're in that position, what annoys me is you're trying to be in cage. You're like, oh, we're not playing very well. How might we get a second goal here? Maybe with a little like-for-like substitution, bring Mount on for Cooney, or could we change the left-back, Dalot for... No, actually go and kill the game. A bit of bravery. Yeah. That's how you win things.
It's far too much respect that they're putting on the opposition, and it's not like the level was like Barcelona were playing. This is a team that was second from bottom before the game started, and it's just we've shown them far too much respect in the same way that we did against Everton. And I'm wondering whether that's a lack of belief what Amarim's got in his team to be able to play that on the front foot football. At home, you should always be doing that. And I've defended Amarim, especially when it comes to regarding the system. But that's just have a little bit of like courage and faith in your team and stuff that you can, and the level of opposition. It should be like, it should be an easy enough job.
That's
to do.
It, isn't it? It's the level of opposition. Because I know we're not the team we used to be, but I remember with David Moyes, what cost him his job. I think when he was asked about a game at home to Newcastle and about being favourites, and he answered the question in a really poor way. And Newcastle have got some good players. I know we're not that team, but far too much respect given to a West Ham team that the chances that they'd had in the game, I think, was us, being a bit naive, maybe diving in, leaving too much space. They hadn't played they hadn't played in a way that should have given us any real concern. No. In the closing stages of the game, and we handed the impetus to them by taking off footballers to bring on defensive players or players that maybe aren't in a good moment in terms of confidence. He's talking about, he doesn't fancy Ugarte. He's giving him nothing. He's saying that Dorgu's got anxiety and he's bringing them on to see a game out. When Dalot's just scored a goal, leave him on.
Yeah, because he'll be flying high. What's the issue with taking him? Before we get to the substitutions, let's talk about the players. No, it's fine. No, I'm trying to be quite reserved. Let's talk about the players that were actually on the pitch, because I think one person who people were giving stick in the chat was Bruno, just for his sloppy passing. It's probably one of the worst games I've seen Bruno had for a long time at United. Yeah,
I think this is the problem when Bruno isn't performing well. It can be very, very hot and cold, very up and down with him. We know he attempts a lot of low percentage actions, and some games, a lot of them come off, and he'll do something fantastic and he'll create assists, score goals. We know the good side of Bruno, but today, on too many occasions, when what United really needed was just to keep hold of the ball for a few minutes, establish a little bit of a rhythm in possession, establish some kind of safety and reliability, we were attempting things that so obviously weren't going to come off. Passes where anyone could have seen beforehand that it was not the right decision to make. I think Bruno was guilty of that on a number of occasions. And those kind of things really, really let the game get away from you, because you can't establish control, you can't build up pressure around the box, and I think it was massively problematic. And Bruno wasn't the only one. I think a lot of players were guilty of that. So I wouldn't necessarily single him out, but we know that he's a player, he's the captain. Obviously, in moments like this, he should be kind of stepping up and taking responsibility. So. Not a great game from him.
No, I mean, when you've got your captain making such haphazard passes, and I think his performance and probably United's performance was summed up with his trying to score that ridiculous volley at the end, which was just such a stupid. For a player of his experience, you take one touch, bring it down.
There's maybe a chance in there. Yeah. I mean, booting the ball into the Stretford ends. What's that for? It's almost like it's frustration.
Yeah.
Because he must know. I mean, that's not a calm head. And this is obviously been the problem with Bruno for a while. Is that people love him for the things he's good at. He's a very specific kind of leader, and unfortunately, he's not the leader for these kind of scenarios.
Yeah.
Which is, again, you shouldn't come down on him too much, because maybe it's a lack of a more obvious leader. Bruno is obviously a senior player in the dressing room, and he's done so much, and so often. In the first half, we were talking about how he covers every blade of grass, and it's great. But in that situation there, I think there was a couple of occasions where you're tearing your hair out with the decisions he's making on the ball, or how loose he's being, because he is the captain. You can forgive it from a young player, but when he's setting that tone at that period of the game, it's really not a good look.
No, that's like Heaven makes the mistake for Diallo early on. You expect it due to his naivety. You don't expect your captain and Bruno, because I think that sort of trickles out through the team. We had a couple of super chats, full-time productions with a couple. Knowing you're not going to win a game while in front has to be the worst feeling as a United fan. We have no one who can score goals, no one. Followed up with, a blind man could see, second goal was needed. Akash Solomon said, a petition for Joe and Jay not to go to another game. I think you might have to pay them to go to Old Trafford if it carries on like this. Guts Doyle, Amorim has been 99% hypothetical since day one. Joke. Ruben Amorim will forever be known as the manager who tried to protect a 1-0 win at home to 18th place West Ham. Shocking anti-United mentality. Guts Doyle, terrible defensive football, and we concede for fun. Shane Gates pretty much echoes what we say. Why are we always a team that poor teams perform against? Fear the direction Amorim is taking us. Poor subs consistently and no consistency. Guts Doyle again. You play Bruno in a free, or you don't play him. A lot of very good points, and I think we agree with most of them. But that thing about, we seem to put teams that have no right to be on the pedestal as an equal to Manchester United. Not even the Manchester United that used to be. The Manchester United within this league table. Everton didn't have any right to come to Old Trafford and do, with the players available and having one less. West Ham didn't have the right to do that tonight. To come here, we should be going for the jugular. We'll go 1-0 up. You go 2, and that's the best line of defence, is going for the second goal. And it's just where do you put the blame down? Because I think everyone's been largely positive towards Amorim and maybe defensive, whereas some fans haven't. But tonight, it just seemed with the pragmaticness or the defence mind, he shot himself in the foot.
I don't know, because there's two periods of the game that bothered me there. It's a team like West Ham, you go get an early goal, they are not. They're not in a good moment. No. It makes the game very difficult for them. What you don't want to do is give West Ham 40 minutes of football, 45 minutes of football to get comfortable at Old Trafford. But teams come to Old Trafford and get comfortable far too easily. Teams that are, as I say, are not in a good moment. So the start of the game is poor, but then you do get the goal through a bit of luck, and as you say, you need a second goal in this game. You need it, and the way the approach is all wrong. I
think that's a much bigger stain than the result itself.
It's
the way you approach that second half and the mentality that you show in terms of just relinquishing that control and relinquishing the fight to get that second goal.
Which the manager said himself, hasn't he? Because he's talked about the results that have, sometimes it is a results business, and people will look at results, and depending on the ball hits the post and goes in, all of a sudden everyone's saying the picture's very good. And he's been the first to call for calm after some good results, saying, actually, there's a lot of work to do here. You can't just look at the result. So,
but then the performances have to show something.
That performance.
Yeah. Well, let's get the league table up actually, and then we'll see where we should have been. So United are down now to 8th. We possibly could have been another 2 points. So we should have been in 5th, where Crystal Palace are. It's just every time we have this sort of narrative ahead of us. Mm-hmm. A prospective future, and we just seem to
behind Liverpool who can't pick up a point.
Yeah, that's the word. I mean, that was as bad as United have been playing. The Liverpool were playing worse than us, so made me feel a little bit better about the performances.
It seems like they've won one game in 10 or something, and they're still ahead of us. It's ridiculous.
And obviously we're Wolves away, which is not going to be an easy game. Where do you think the majority of the problems are? I mean, the whole conversation is around the system. I don't think that was a system-based draw today, but it is worrying that we're not scoring goal or not, creating enough chances. Is that down to personnel? Is it why is the manager going defensive? Does he not trust his forwards to actually score more goals? I mean, where do we go from here?
I do think you have to look at the system and ask whether it's platforming players to be in the right positions that play to their strengths. I don't think it feels like many players are being played to their strengths, where you have, we think about the quality of chances that are being created, because this season I've seen a lot of XG stats being thrown about with United, and to be fair, United have quite a high XG relative to some others in the league, but the quality of those individual chances is really poor. And I think most games we come away from, even if we win, if you ask how many clear-cut chances do you remember, often it's quite hard to recall a few, because I don't think we create many. And so I think that has to it has to be in some way related to the system. I'm not saying it's completely a system. Obviously personnel plays a major role, but I do think questions have to be asked at every different department of the club, every different area, the players, the staff, because it's so far from good enough.
Tom?
I mean, Burnley's the only one I can think where I thought we were creating chance after chance, and even then we scored. It was an own goal. Mm-hmm. A goal just off the back of theirs, so when they were vulnerable immediately after, and a 96-minute penalty, and you scrape by against the newly promoted side that are struggling near the bottom of the league. Yeah. And that's the one that I think of when I think about chances created. As I said, I've been very pro Amorim, but I do think sometimes situations can get away from you. Yeah. And that's what he's vulnerable to. And he's really not. He's especially when you have a result like tonight where people are going to look at it and think, well, actually, this has been almost of your making.
Yeah, and if you look at the games we've won, and it seems like the last few weeks we've undone that, the beating of Liverpool, the beating of Chelsea, I think we went 5 games unbeaten at one point, and now we're 1 game won in 5 matches. And it's like, what is the real Manchester United under Ruben Amorim? Yeah. What is our identity? And you were talking about systems there. And if we are going to get these players, he's not going to back down from his system. So where do we go from here?
He's not shown anything. That's the thing. We've got to a point where we start to see some good results. And because the league is so close and everyone's dropping them, we're in a bit of a position where you think, well, actually, okay, on paper, we're getting some results. We're not losing as many games, and we're actually in touch with the higher echelons of the table. But the performances haven't kicked on from the start of the season, where we saw some positivity, a little bit better than it was, but it's not kicked on.
That's the thing. I think this might sound harsh, but I don't think obviously we've improved a little bit in terms of results this season compared to last, which wasn't hard to do, but I don't think that jump that we've taken is any more than you would expect from the improvement in quality of players that we brought in. I don't think we've really seen an improvement massively in the way we're playing football. I think a lot of what we're seeing can be put down to the jump that we took in quality in that front line, and I'm yet to see. I've been quite pro Amorim, and I've been almost preaching patience and let's see what he can do. But I really need to see something tangible in terms of these performances that shows me where we're going.
I think with me, when you do see the Liverpool game and the Chelsea, I was sort of pinning my hopes that was the beginning of what the true Manchester United under Amorim looks like. But then you look at the games before that run, and you look at the games of late, and I was easy enough to sort of write off last season because there's no signings. But if we're just going off the basis of this season now, the results against Liverpool and Chelsea look a little bit like red herrings compared to in a sea of shit now as well. Yeah.
What happens if we don't beat Wolves now? If we have a poor performance, worst case scenario, Wolverhampton Wanderers have been one of the worst teams we've seen in the Premier League up until this point. In a season, to have 2 points, they're up there with if they find a way to beat us on Monday. Obviously, I'm not getting ahead of myself here, but where does, it's very hard. Them situations are very difficult to wrestle back, because anyone that's trying to defend you is they've got nothing. There's only so long you can go by on these hypotheticals. And we don't want to keep sacking managers. We can't keep repeating the cycle. Yeah. It's got to show something.
Well, even now, when you look at the low points, Grimsby losing to a 10-men Everton, drawing against second from bottom West Ham at home, and it's just the evidence becomes unattainable. And going into the games after Wolves, I think it's Newcastle on Boxing Day, and we've got Villa and Bournemouth coming up, and it's like the winter season is never a good time. Not to throw more fucking shit on this, but there's the AFCON and and Ahmad's gonna go. So Christmas might not be that great.
Well, this was the perfect period, these last few games.
Yeah, to put some sort of bed in for that period.
Even if you do drop points over that period, then you've got a foundation, something to fall back on. But we've completely foregone that opportunity.
Yeah, I've got some more super chats. So Discombobulate 4-5-3. Amarim's hero is Jose. This is why we are seeing us trying to sit on a 1-0, but we aren't good enough to hold such a narrow lead. We need to be killing off games. Could have gone 5th, but we bottled it. Gut style again. Fulham, Forest, Spurs, Everton, West Ham. That's 11 points wasted. Hands up for the Panther. What did you expect from boring old Nuno? He's a coward, crap club, crap manager. He doesn't care. He's a coward. Park the bus. Don't let it affect you.
I think that game kind of shows the opposite. To be honest.
I have to read them out though. So.
No, of course,
yeah. So I mean, it's a really bad day at the office. Was there any silver linings that you took from today?
Usually I feel like I'm quite an optimist, and I do try and look for something positive to take from that. But I really struggled today.
I thought both our new signings were poor, and it starts to, and it. I don't want to blame them because, you know, for their own performances almost, because we were so optimistic when they first started this season. They showed signs, but it seems like it's the toxicity of the club that, you know, now, especially after this game, I'm looking at them and thinking, okay, when was the last time Cooney and Burmo, you know, had a good game?
Yeah,
like it's everyone's it's just slipping back into struggling.
Yeah,
you need to find the results. Ten Hag always found results, didn't he, in that first couple of when he needed them.
Yeah,
Amarim is not good at finding a result.
We're not getting these last minute wins out
when he needs it, and it's going to be. I feel like it's not going to be long before he comes unstuck. You can't carry on like this.
No, I don't think so. I think when you talk about Mbeumo and Cunha there, Joe always laughs in a bad way about how we sign great players and make them shit.
Yeah.
It's like we pull them into our cesspool and then like
they always seem to regress into
it.
I feel like the same thing or similar happened with Mazraoui a little bit. I'm not saying he had such a good start when he came to United initially. And it feels like it's almost impossible for them to escape this pull of just falling to the level that United have become in recent years. And, you know, I still think they're going to have good United careers, and I think they were fantastic signings made. But it's really such a shame to see that they're almost being brought to that level and not being given the platform to excel.
Yeah, well, we couldn't beat second from bottom at home. We'll try and beat bottom of the league away. Tom, thank you very much. And Finn, as usual.
Thanks for having me.
And the lads will be doing some reports, and I'm sure they're going to be full of the springs of joy of springs. See, this is what United do to you. They fuck up players and your words. I'll see you soon.